Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. Big up to everyone locked in over on Chelsea Fan TV as always. And welcome to your daily transfer update and another live stream, guys. First things first, people, you know what to do. Make sure you smash the likes on both streams. Make sure you subscribe to both channels as well. Remember, guys, we're less than 150 subs now from 4K on my channel. As soon as we hit that 4K mark, guys, you'll have an opportunity to win a Chelsea shirt of your choice for the upcoming season. So the quicker we get to 4K, the quicker you will have a chance of winning that shirt. So make sure you do subscribe. There's plenty to get into as always. Chelsea's 4-3 win over Brighton last night. Our first back-to-back win since March, yet we're going to take that and count it because times have been tough over the last season. News on Callum Hudson-Odoi closing in on a reunion with Maurizio Sarri. Obviously, Elye Wahi, I think that's how you pronounce it. Chelsea closing in on a deal for him as well because competition for his signature is hotting up. So we need to get a move on with that one as well. And yeah, Nicholas Jackson's been impressive in Nkunku 2-2. Levi Colwell playing well as well last night. There's loads to get into. And I'm delighted to be joined by the Chelsea Dodgers, mate. Thank you so much for coming, as always. Really appreciate it. I guess the only place to start is, let's start with last night. What have you made of the pre-season tour so far? Because I'll be honest, mate, when the squad was released, the 29-man squad list, I'll be honest, myself and I think a lot of fans included looked at that and thought, yeah, we need some work. We need quite a few players. This squad doesn't look the best. But actually, a lot of players have impressed. And now it's not looking that bad. Just we clearly need more reinforcements and whatnot in key areas. But I think a lot of the youngsters have really impressed as well. I mean, what have you made of what you've seen so far across the two games?
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed. I mean, I'll talk about sort of the off the field stuff first because I think that's important to touch on, especially after last season where the pre-season under Tuchel and all what transpired last summer. I always felt everything was very downbeat. All the content coming out was always downbeat, and everyone was sort of moping around a bit and probably still recovering from all the sanctions and stuff. And this one just feels totally different. A complete 180. Every bit of content coming out is positive. The players, although the Premier League hasn't started yet, the players are saying the right things. The manager's saying the right things. It's just a complete different feel straight from the outset. So that's definitely something I want to highlight straight away. And then on the pitch, obviously Wrexham's Wrexham. I don't think we can read too much into that one. But last night, went toe-to-toe with Brighton. Obviously not where we want to be because obviously we know typically we'd be higher than Brighton in any sort of normal season. But we know Brighton has set up very, very well with De Zerbi. Very hard team to break down. They obviously play a very attractive football as well. No, I thought a lot of it went toe-to-toe with them as well. In terms of moving forward, I try not to read too much into pre-season games because I think obviously a lot of it is fitness and understanding your teammates and stuff like that. We've still got Nkunku, Melo Gusto, you've got Andre Santos, Caicedo, and Pochettino. So there's a lot of new faces within the squad in general, and obviously all the January players as well. So there will be some more gelling, but it's a great start though. Considering these are very, very new to each other, I thought it was a great start.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I think, as you touched on, really important to highlight that the difference between last season, this time last season, and now is night and day. Not only in terms of personnel, but in terms of feel around the place, in terms of the mood in the camp. And for me, this is the first pre-season in a number of years where we've actually got a squad of players, and every player in the squad on the tour actually wants to be at the club and wants to play for the club, and that makes such a big difference. I don't think there's any big egos necessarily in the dressing room. Everyone's kind of happy. The content is great coming out from the club. Everyone looks happy to do it, etc. It's not downbeat like you were touching on earlier. And I think, even at this early point in time, Pochettino deserves massive credit for what he's done so far. How impressed with you in terms of the fact that how fit we look already? Like, I know obviously last season we were massively unfit, but we look sharp, we look fit. We're in games. The intensity there was there from the first minute to the last minute in both games. And he deserves credit as well. Do you think has he impressed you more than you were expecting at this point in time?
Yes, especially with what you said. I mean, I know obviously sometimes words can be empty, but I think it is nice as a fan because we are invested in our clubs. We do love our clubs, and we can only listen to what they say. And again, I don't want to sort of go into old territory, but the difference between Pochettino and Graham Potter in terms of words, totally different. I mean, it's completely different. The mindset is different. The mentality is different. Pochettino doesn't sort of act like he's sort of won the lottery and he's there. He's there because he's earned it, and he thinks that he can take us to the next level or where we want to be. And I feel that sort of radiating off him straight away. And hopefully, if I'm feeling as a fan, then because I think it's very underestimated what managers do in the media, how they speak. And I think if I can feel it as a fan, then I think you could definitely feel it as a player. You know, you must obviously read all the stuff which gets said about you in post and pre-match and interviews and stuff like that. And, you know, he is backing the players. So, yeah, I've been very impressed with him on that front, mate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, we've set up with a 4-2-3-1 from the off in both games. There's a subtle formation change in the second half against Wrexham. But that's like the formation we're going to go with. Let's talk about some players that have impressed, because let's start with Nicholas Jackson. This guy could have been a Bournemouth player if he didn't have a hamstring injury back in January that was ruling him out till March. So they canned that deal. We swooped in, obviously see something in him. And the biggest thing for any new player, particularly a striker, is you want to hit the ground running in pre-season. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. You just want to make an impression as quickly as possible. And 4 assists and a goal in 2 games. Took his goal really well last night. Link-up play has been superb as well with the assists in both games. You couldn't really ask for a better start from him. Are you surprised at how good he's looked?
I'm a little surprised because, you know, things like, you expect some sort of adaptation period. But, I mean, I think he's on the same trajectory as, like, do you remember when Diego Costa came in? He had that crazy pre-season, and then that led into the season. So I think it's really important for a striker to at least get some goals and assists in pre-season, and then they can carry it into the season. So he looks like he started very well on that front. Like you and probably most other fans, didn't really know much about him before he came in. But that's where us as fans, we have to sort of have trust and faith in our data-led model. You know, something must have flagged the data or the scouting system, especially with our new AI scout thing we've got. Something must have flagged in there quite high for us to shell out, 34 million quid on him. And so far, obviously, again, I want to see what he's like in the Premier League, but you can only judge on what you've seen so far, and I've been very impressed with him.
Yeah, I think he's done really well. I think what struck me is like his pace he's lightning quick. It's not quite as quick as Mudryk, but he's lightning quick. He's got a good finish on him. You know, the PTSD from last season where, if Kai Havertz is through with that's going straight into the keeper's hands or miles over the bar. But the finish is fantastic. The ball through from Cucurella as well, by the way, is superb. But yeah, he's ticking all the boxes. And I don't want to say like, oh, this is the answer and we finally found our striker. But on the evidence we've seen from the 2 games so far, he hasn't put a foot wrong, and he's been absolutely superb. The only thing I'm a little bit disappointed about last night is we didn't get to see the Jackson and Kunku link up. Hopefully we'll see that against Newcastle. But I mean, looking at it right now, mate, we'll get back to the game and some other players in a sec. But do you think Chelsea need to sign another striker? Because I've been sort of going back and forth with this. And obviously it's not ideal that Broja's not on the tour. Jackson will probably be the starting striker, certainly for the first few games of the season. I'm not sure if we do need to go and spend 70, 80, 90 million pounds on a striker. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer for what we're looking for. I mean, how do you view the striker situation? Because the market's not great either.
I think it really depends on that name you mentioned, Armando Broja, coming off Vari's ACL, was it? Or injury he had. So obviously missed a lot of last season to that. And, unfortunately, still not fit enough to obviously be on tour. And there were rumours a few days ago that West Ham are still interested in him, and they're probably going to let Scamacca go back to Italy. So they will probably be on the lookout for a striker, and that is something I could see happening. And again, not really through Broja's own fault. It's just opportunities have been limited. Jackson's coming in and playing really well. So he might look at that and think. And I don't know if you saw on the Chelsea website what Nkunku said, which was very telling as well. He said that one of his favourite positions is striker, and then you obviously saw last night that Pochettino did start him up front. So maybe Broja's third choice up front. So I think us getting a striker in depends on his future, I'd say. So yeah, I think if Broja moves, then that's when I think Chelsea will get it. Whether that's on loan or permanent, I don't know yet, but that's just the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah, no, I probably feel the same as well. I think it's an issue that obviously he's not been able to go on the tour because he's not going to go straight in and get minutes from the off against Liverpool. I don't know if he can play for the 21s or the development team in any games in their preseason, potentially to try and get some minutes in the legs, but he's going to be on the back foot in a season that he can't really afford to be on the back foot from the off. But I mean, how excited are you to see the Nkunku Jackson link up when we do see it? How do you see that potentially working out?
Well, like you said, I think it's the right ingredients, and then the other side of that is Mudryk as well. That could be, should they all click together, and Nkunku, Mudryk, and Jackson. All three, 2 out of the 3. I'd say Nkunku's got pace, but it's not like lightning like Jackson or Mudryk. So, like you said last season, there's so many games we watched last season where Chelsea just would ping it around the edge of the box, and we wouldn't score in a million years. We carried on playing for hours. Whereas now, like last night, the ball's in the box, and that's the reason why I really liked the Nkunku finish, was that he was alive in the box.
Yeah.
There was suspicion of offside apparently, but it doesn't matter pre-season. But the fact of the matter is, in a short space of time, he was alive to the ball. And then for Jackson, for setting up Gallagher as well, very, very quick feet. And that's something we've been missing. I feel like in our attack, we can get it into some good positions, but it's just so laboured. Like you said, with Havertz up front, just didn't click for me at all. And many other fans felt the same as well. So being alive in the box is key. And those two you mentioned could definitely make the other centre-backs worry and create some danger.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Nkunku because obviously he's come in 2 from 2 different finishes, but both very good in their own right, as you say, alive in the box, instinctive, and then that second one round the keeper, great finish as well, slightly off balance, and he looks a real good player, a real coup for us to be able to have got him, and for a decent price. As well, he's hit the ground running. He's done really well. Again, he said that he likes playing striker. Pochettino did say afterwards that he's kind of forced his hand a little bit to play him there because Broja wasn't here. But I mean, what do you think his best position will be? I mean, I suppose he'll probably play as a 10, but I think in certain games he'll probably rotate there as well. Do you think we'll see the same amount of him at centre forward and at number 10?
Yeah, I mean, even when he played for Leipzig, I think even when he did play up front, he was always a second striker playing off someone. So I think on that basis, I think you'll still see him behind the striker quite a bit. And then maybe if an injury crisis strikes, or maybe the others need a rest, that's when you'll see Nkunku for some games go up front when we need it. But I think for the majority, you'll see him behind the main striker.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just wanted to touch on a couple of other guys before we move into a little bit of transfer news. I felt last night was massive for Mudryk in terms of confidence, in terms of getting his first goal. This is a pre-season game, but it's against a Premier League level of opposition. He looks electric in that 45 minutes. And for me, we've always seen that the talent's there. From that first cameo up at Anfield, the ability's there, the talent's there, the hard work's there. The pieces just haven't quite fallen into play. And I feel like this summer he's gone away. He's worked on himself. He looks like he's put a little bit of size on in the gym. He went to the European under-21s, which he didn't need to do, but he played well in the games that he played there. And he's come back. He looks confident. And I thought it was really telling afterwards when he says that he knows exactly what the manager wants from him, which I think is a massive, massive plus as a player. It just goes again to show the work that Pochettino's done. And, that the pace is electric. I know we knew he was quick, but I'm sure you saw that run where it virtually looked like he was going to go out for a corner, and he still gets to it. The goal's great. The link-up play was great. How much are you looking forward to seeing him? Because I think we've got a real player on our hands. I don't want to get too carried away from one game and whatnot, but I think all the ingredients are there for him to be a top player and be a thorn in the side of a lot of Premier League defenders next season.
No, I agree. I definitely think the raw ingredients are there, and it's very interesting you said about the relationship he has with managers. I don't know if you saw it because he used to be managed by Roberto De Zerbi, funnily enough, and De Zerbi did speak, I think, when we played him at Stamford Bridge when they actually beat us, Brighton, unfortunately. But he spoke pre-game about how Mudryk likes an arm around him and being told he's the best. So almost like again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm trying to think of a player who has likes his ego being stroked, so to speak, and maybe like a young Ronaldo, maybe possibly like that, So from what De Zerbi said, arm around the shoulder, told you the best in the world, or told you can become one of the best in the world. So I think Pochettino is probably the perfect manager to do that. I mean, look what he did with Son and all the other wingers at Tottenham as well.
Well, Dele Alli as well
You know,
was very good under him.
Dele Alli. I mean, he even made Townsend look good at Tottenham at times. So I definitely think, imagine what he could do with Mudryk, and as I said, the ability he possesses. Because I think again, Mudryk's got a good finish on him. But if you look back at his Shakhtar goals, I mean, not just in the league, but in the Champions League, he was scoring bangers. So I definitely think Pochettino can mould him to be a really, really exciting Premier League and maybe one of the leading players in the future. But yeah, I think he's on the right trajectory. Again, I think we have to underestimate where he's come from. You can imagine, he didn't come in. He came in January time. He didn't play since early November, so he had like a 2-month break because of the winter break, obviously in Ukraine and Russia, etc. And then, of course, you had the politics stuff of the war and stuff like that. So I think his family, when he initially moved over, they were still there. I believe.
Parents still live there, I think.
And they still live there now, and the war's still going on. So you can imagine the mental toll of that coming on the back of a 60 million plus 30 million add-on transfer to Chelsea, one of the biggest clubs in the world. The pressure probably will tell. And then, of course, you have all the other upheaval, the Graham Potter and all the other new signings coming in. It was chaotic. So hopefully we are seeing the fruits of that now. A stable manager. I wouldn't say behind the scenes is stable because we just obviously had Vivell left. So
it's not mad.
it's not totally stable yet, but I think hopefully with Pochettino, Stewart, and Winstanley, hopefully those three can be a linchpin now and stay for good years to come, and then you'll see stability. So yeah, I think on that basis we could see something special from Mudryk.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see him, and I think if he carries on how he's done in that 45 minutes for the rest of the preseason games, he should be locking down a place in the starting 11. Certainly for the first few games of the season. I'm really excited to see what he can do. I think it's a massive benefit of having these talented youngsters in the squad that you've got a manager who, in my opinion, is second to none at developing young players. So I think it's really exciting to see. And a lot of the young players are doing really, really well. I just wanted to touch on one other guy, mate. A lot of people in the chat, a lot of people on Twitter as well, bigging up Angelo Gabriel, the guy that we signed from Santos. Now, he provided a great assist in the game in Wrexham, and he looks pretty good. And again, last night he was decent when he came on. He looks very technically sound. Obviously, he's still a bit rough around the edges, but this is not an inexperienced guy. This guy has played a lot of football, over 100 games for Santos at 18 years of age. That is experience. I mean,
he's played more than Mudryk, I think. I read somewhere.
I think he has, mate. I mean, what do you think the plans are for him? Because obviously the plan was, I think, to send him on loan to Strasbourg. But if he impresses and continues to impress over the pre-season, I mean, do you think he could play a part in the squad? Maybe I just look at it. I think potentially, like for me, he's not going to be ahead of Mudryk or Madueke or Nkunku, or if we bring Kudos in. And at this point in time, he's really not ahead of Sterling. So as much as he's doing well, I think we do need to probably keep our feet on the ground a little bit. And maybe a year in France at Strasbourg, playing under Patrick Vieira, playing week in, week out in a top 5 European league, he could come back and be a big part of the squad for 24-25. I mean, how do you see him at the moment? Because a lot of people are excited.
No, I feel it. I literally, you couldn't have said it any better. I think the good thing about Pochettino playing these young players on tour is that they are putting themselves in the shop window. So, naturally every player will be trying their hardest, whether that's to get into our first team or squad, or that's to go on like a decent loan elsewhere. I think probably when we signed him, because pretty much every single report when we signed him, whether that's from Nizza, Fabrizio, pretty much all the top journos were saying we've signed him with a view to him going to Strasbourg. And then I think, this unfortunately the situation we have is, and I was contemplating this the other day, maybe it would have been a good idea with our model that we did get Conference League or Europa League, because we could have had a Premier League team, and then we could have played, and then if we wanted to keep Angelo and all the others like that, we could have had a Europa League team. But unfortunately, we just got no Europe at all. So the 4 names you mentioned, do we want a situation like Carney Chukwuemeka last year, where he should have gone out on loan at the start of the season or in January, and then you sort of stunt his development. So I think we're going to have to make big decisions. The same applies to Castell as well. I think Andrew Santos may stay, but I think I see a lot of clamour online calling for people to Castell to stay, but I feel he might be in the same boat as Angelo. let's get them a decent loan, and then they might come back even better next year, and then they'll be fighting for a place. Whereas this year they might stay and maybe over the course of because we haven't got many games this season, they might play maybe 10, 15 times with a lot of them substitute appearances, whereas they could be playing week in, week out, as you said, a top 5 league.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think at the end of the day, it's a great position for us to be in. And I know it's early days, but I think we might slowly be starting to see some of the fruits of this model of signing these young players. Of course, not all of them are going to work out, but if they don't work out from a playing sense, I think you can still maybe flip a lot of these guys for a profit as well. So it's kind of win-win in both situations. So look, I'm excited to see how things go with these youngsters, but they've certainly impressed so far. And as you say, they're putting themselves in the shop window. And I think for a few of them, a loan to a top 5 European leagues will be exactly what they need. And then they can come back the following season and play a big part in the squad. I also think it makes a difference where you get these guys in now, you loan them out, they get some development, and actually it saves you money and time in future transfer windows because you've already got guys in that are ready, part of the system, part of the multi-club model. They've played quite a lot, and they're kind of ready to slot straight in potentially as well, which could be a massive plus. I mean, before we move on to one last guy I want to talk about before we get into some transfer news. Guys, over 130 of us locked in, only 32 likes. That's poor. Guys, stop freeloading the content. Make sure you just hover over that thumb button, give it a click. Let's ramp these likes up, people. Should be at least on 100 likes. So please do keep smashing the likes, hover over that thumb button, give it a little click. It does massively help out. So please do that. Let's ramp these likes up to at least 50, 60. We should be aiming for 100 though, guys. So let's see what we can do on that front. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm sure there's lots of new people in here, guys. So make sure you do subscribe. Remember, as soon as you get to 4,000 subscribers on my channel, you will have a chance to win a Chelsea shirt of your choice for next season. So make sure you hit the link if you're not subscribed. And please do subscribe. Over 400 of us locked in across both channels as well, people. So big up everyone in the chat who is tuning in. Mate, Raheem Sterling. Everyone's done well this preseason, bar this guy. I've not been impressed at all, if I'm being totally honest. I don't want to be too harsh because it is preseason. Last season was shocking from him as well. And I noticed last night, this guy just dribbles straight into players, and I'm just not here for it. And at this point in time, I know we've not seen Madueke play yet in pre-season, but Sterling is certainly behind Mudryk. He's certainly behind Nkunku in that front line as well. If Mohamed Kudus comes in, he could well be behind him. Madueke, if he plays, could be behind him as well. Like, Sterling's looking at it, and he could be like 4th choice at the moment in the wide areas if he doesn't sort himself out. I mean, are you disappointed in him? Because I'm just not liking what I'm seeing at all from him so far.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely disappointing because, again, you look at the investment we put in him on the transfer fee, but also the wages as well. So he's one of the highest paid players in our squad and also one of the most experienced. And the word which came to mind for me is that, you know, running into players, sloppy passes, dribbling into aimless alleyways on the field, it's just clumsy. And he looked at times when I watched the game, when the camera sort of panned on him sometimes, he almost looked a little bit lost or like very like confused face. And I was just thinking, I don't think he knows his role. You know, what's he doing? Whereas all the other players had like their game face on, and he just almost had like a question mark above his head. So I don't know if his head was in the game. You know, again, kept giving it away, running into players. So he needs to sort that out quickly because, as you said, if he's not careful, you know, Pochettino didn't sign him, so you know, I don't think he'd be getting orders from Bowley and co to play Sterling. So he could find himself very much behind the pecking order because I don't think a manager like Pochettino would certainly stand for lack of concentration and, you know, not maintaining standards anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive season for Sterling. Obviously, it's not been great the first 2 games, but I mean, how do you see him kind of fitting in potentially under Pochettino? Because he's going to be here this season. We're not going to sell him. Obviously, Saudi would take him, but he's obviously definitely not going to go there. Where do you see him fitting in? And do you think he's kind of a Pochettino style of player? Because I look at him and you look at the wide players that Poch has worked with, maybe at Tottenham and Southampton, and he's not particularly like any of the players he's necessarily worked with. I mean, Sterling's obviously has been a great player over the course of his career, but I know he's still 27, 28, sort of a good age in his career, but I don't know if I feel that maybe his best years are behind him already, or that might be a bit premature in writing him off. But I mean, do you think he's a Pochettino type of player? Do you think he can do well at Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously based on what he said the other day, he said he was a bit, which I found quite interesting actually. He said he was a little bit overweight last season.
Yeah,
So
a bit fat, yeah.
again, Kate, what it just begs to wonder what on earth went on last season. I mean, they could very much make a very good documentary about everything which happened at Chelsea last season because I think people pay for it. It'd be fireworks. But yeah, obviously something's quite not right. And again, I go back to it. Is he feeling the move to Chelsea? I think, from what I read, he was obviously very, very attracted to, come back to London where his family lives and stuff like that. I just hope he's not in the mode of, I've completed my thing at Man City now. I've won, countless trophies. And I've come back to London just to get the bag and see my family more. I hope he's not that mindset. I hope he's in the mindset of, I've got 2-3 years or 4 years left at the top level and I can achieve something. But so far, just his head's not in the game. And in terms of Pochettino, how you will use him, I how I sort of viewed it before pre-season was that Sterling, I thought was a sure starter. Then it would be Mudryk and then Madueke and the potential other winger we got through would be sort of competing for the other slot of the winger position. But now you look at it and you think, if he obviously doesn't improve, then it'd be very interesting to see if he lines up against Liverpool the first day of the season. But I think Pochettino, the way he likes to use his wingers, a lot of them, I look at Mudryk last night, a lot of them are sort of touchline wingers, and that is one of Sterling's strengths as well. So I think Pochettino can certainly mould him to what he wants to do, but it's just concentration levels for me, clumsy and head's not in the game. So I think if Pochettino can sort that out, I think he could be really effective for him.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. I think there's still a player there, but yeah, he needs to fix up big time. Otherwise, he is going to be finding himself very, very much surplus to requirements. But let's move into a little bit of transfer news. And obviously, Moises Caicedo wasn't playing last night, not because of a transfer, but because he's only been training for 2 days with the team. This transfer has been dragging on for a long time. Had in the Telegraph today that talks are continuing between Chelsea and Brighton for Caicedo, and Chelsea expected to make a new offer soon. Still valued at 100 million by Brighton. Removal of Colwell from the equation will force Chelsea to significantly raise their offer if they are to convince Brighton to sell. Mate, as far as I'm concerned, I'm tired of this. We've had a lot of sagas this summer. Started with Mason Mount. We've got the Lukaku thing ongoing. Now we've got, obviously, this Caicedo situation ongoing. Now, every day that goes by is another day where he could have been training with the team, getting to know the manager, getting to know the group. And it's a key position as well. So the longer this goes on, the more of a disadvantage I feel we're putting ourselves at. And I just don't know what we could possibly still be speaking about. Because if you are to believe reports, we've been speaking daily or at least every other day or multiple times per week for at least 3 weeks now. And I don't understand how we don't seem to have really got any further down the line. I mean, how are you viewing this whole thing? Is this frustrating you as well?
Massively, because there's so many sort of timeline of events which have come out about this. So, I'd say that I think the negotiation was Ornstein's first sort of bid was early June. So that just shows you how long this has actually been going on for. Someone said to me like it's 4 or 5 weeks, and I was like, no, it's literally been like 6, 7, 8 weeks. Yeah, it's been a long time, but it feels shorter for some reason because pre-season's come around quick. So what sort of annoys me or frustrates me is that, and this is probably a Chelsea briefing as well, is that we were told that Chelsea were talking to Brighton every day. Chelsea want a quick negotiation. They're not going to put any bids in until they feel Brighton will be happy with it. And then you fast forward 6, 7 weeks later, we've put in 2 bids, one of 60 and then one of 70. Both have been rejected. And Brighton's valuation is still, in their mind, 100 million, what we've been told. So all that negotiation so far is for nothing. And I feel as well, and I've sort of hinted this at a few times, is that I think it's due to the Levi Cole situation. I think Brighton have clearly been pushing very, very hard, and it's almost created a bit of a stalemate. Obviously, Chelsea have put their foot down, and Pochettino came out last night again and reiterated that he stays with us. But then again, you saw the De Zerbi press conference before that, and very tongue-in-cheek his comments about Levi Colwell. And it clearly shows that from Brighton's point of view, they feel they still can get Cole back. So it's a really triangle situation of Caicedo, Cole, and stuff. So I don't know how it ends, but I feel like Chelsea will have to draw a line in the sand soon, because it seems to be like delaying all our other targets, which I don't understand either as well, actually. Why would Caicedo stop us going for anyone else? That doesn't make sense to me anyway.
We should be going for multiple targets at once. That was the whole point of kind of having like all these different people, is you work on more than one deal at once, because if a deal falls through, then you're already part way down the road on another deal. So you're not starting again. So look, I agree with this. I mean, ultimately, I do think we'll get him, but I don't know if we'll ever know the reasons, and I would love to know the reasons as to why this is taking so long, what the hold-ups are. We obviously know that Brighton were desperate to get Levi Colwill. They've signed a centre-back from Fiorentina now. Pochettino's made it clear that Colwell's staying with us. I'm not sure if Brighton are still going to be trying or what, or maybe they finally accepted now. But, you know, if it is literally Chelsea pay 100 million, then ideally, obviously, the club don't want to pay that. But the way I see it is, sometimes there's certain players that you have to break the bank for and pay more than you plan to do so. And I look at Caicedo, and I think at 21 years of age, what he's achieved already in the game, how much talent there is, how high his ceiling is to progress over the next few years. He's 21 and he's already dominating Premier League midfields. For me, he's the closest you're going to get to sort of a regen of Kante. He's exactly what we need. So actually, yes, we might not want to spend the money, but sometimes you just have to go a little bit above and beyond and just pay up to get the guy that you want, because he is going to make that much of a difference to this team. Do you see that in the same way? Do you think we should just pay up, or do you think we should be negotiating to try and get it for 80, 85?
Well, like you, I think we've put all our eggs in one basket on this one. It feels like, to me, it's sort of like Caicedo or bust, really. I mean, there are obviously other targets we can go for. I mean, the obvious ones are like Onana at Everton and Lavia at Southampton. But
right, it's a level down, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it means. So that we've for me, from what I've seen, we've kind of put all our eggs in that basket. Obviously, Declan Rice is gone now. Jude Bellingham's gone. So there was like a Matt Law list in February with all those names on, and Caicedo's the only really one left out of that list. So for me, is again, of course, you'll be able to find other players maybe, but you know, finding players who fit the age bracket, as you said, 21 years of age, but I wouldn't say Caicedo's Premier League proven, but he's certainly on the way, because he hasn't had enough time in the Premier League yet to say that. But from what he's done so far in the league, it's been absolutely brilliant. So yeah, all our eggs are in that basket, and maybe the deal does get done, but maybe it's similar to Mudrik's deal, where hopefully they accept like a boatload of add-ons for it and stuff like that. Because if they want £100 million as the base fee, no add-ons, then you know, Chelsea maybe are adamant they don't want to do that. But hopefully, add-ons and stuff will hopefully get it to that figure. But I think we will get him, but it may drag on.
Yeah, I mean, now that we've played Brighton, now that we're supposedly going to meet them face to face in the coming days, or certainly maybe already have done so potentially. I'm not too sure on that. Obviously, try and send Egbali in to get this sorted. Do you expect a bit more movement on this coming up next week? Because I know that we can't afford for Caicedo to not really play any pre-season games for us. So, I mean, do you see this moving a little bit quickly now next week? I mean, it's impossible to put a timeline on this, but do we think we could possibly see a conclusion to this deal by this time next week, maybe?
Maybe not a conclusion, but I think you'll know whether more it's going to happen or whether it's not going to happen. I think that the sort of subtle hints of Pochettino now coming out, saying that he needs more players. He's done that after the game twice now. He said that he needs more. And it's very interesting. He uses the word experience as well. But yeah, you've got him saying, and they asked him directly as well, you know, would you like the signings in America? And he said, I'd like them ASAP. So you got that little bit of added pressure coming from Pochettino now. So again, as you said, August is rapidly coming up. I mean, was it 20 days to play Liverpool in the league? You know, massive game. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed we haven't got Caicedo for the start of the preseason tour, to be honest. But it would be nice to get it done. So maybe the last two games of preseason or last game, he can be in the squad. But yeah, Brighton just very difficult to deal with. Maybe rightfully so, because you know they want as much money for their asset as possible. And in football, there's no favours. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, we sold him Gilmore cheap," and whatever.
It doesn't work like
I
that.
know it doesn't work like it just doesn't work like that, does it? Tony Bloom's not going to suddenly turn around and go, "Oh, thanks for last summer for Gilmore. You probably sold him
We've got
20."
that priced off. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just doesn't work like that, does it, mate? So, something's got to give either way. And I'm hoping that Caicedo's camp really starts to, not that I like it happening, because we all complained when the Courtois did it to us and sort of missed pre-season or left training. But sometimes, if a player wants to go, sometimes it has to be done. So maybe him and his agent need to go down the dark arts route and try and force the issue a little bit.
I agree on that, mate. Very quickly, we'll come back to this. There's been a little bit of breaking news from the French, I think he's French, from the French journalist Fabrice Hawkins. Now, this is in relation to Elise. He says here, Chelsea have made a first offer to Crystal Palace for Michael Elise. Offer less than 45 million euros, including bonuses. The player is seduced by, I'm not sure if that literally translates that, but the player is seduced by the Blues project. In principle, he agrees to go to Chelsea, even if there are always negotiations. Now, what are your thoughts initially on that? Because we've had links with Cherki, we had links with Gabri Vega, we then had David Ornstein yesterday saying that Chelsea are close to agreeing personal terms with Mohamed Kudus, and they've inquired about a price, and that seems to be maybe that could move along. Now we've got the first links to Michael Elise at Crystal Palace. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I'm just reading it now, actually. It's quite interesting because there were sort of rumblings of Elise, and I think he was linked very heavily to PSG as well. I think obviously he came from Chelsea originally when he was a young lad, didn't he? Then, if I remember correctly, some of the really good youth guys on Twitter said he left for behaviour reasons, or sort of, that's the reason why he left Chelsea. I think if I remember correctly, it was something like that. I remember Felix saying something about that. But again, it's all about the profiles, isn't it? He fits the profile and he ticks the box of Premier League experience as well. Doesn't really surprise me, to be honest. And again, Ornstein's article yesterday, we clearly are after like a number 10/winger. Pochettino clearly wants that profile, so Cherki, Kudus, Elise comes into that as well now. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me we're going down that road. Very exciting player.
How many of these do you think we're going to get? Because Cherki, I think now looks like it could well be off, but never say never. Kudus looks like it could be quite far down the road. Can you envisage us getting Kudus and Elise, or do you actually think it's going to be one of the two? Because I don't even know if we need both of them, if we're being honest, because you would imagine that these guys are going to be sort of a Mount Havertz replacement, not like for like, but you would imagine they would replace those numbers in the squad potentially. Do you think we get both? Do you think we need both? How do you see that sort of versatile 10 wide player holding the squad that needs filling? Do you think we need both these guys?
Yeah, again, based on the current squad, unless something's going to happen to Sterling, Madueke or Mudryk, you'd probably say just one on that basis, because again, we've got no European football, so you would have thought four of those types of players who can switch flanks, and some of them could potentially play sort of in the middle. You would need maybe three and then one young player. So I'd say on that basis, we probably only need one, but I don't know. It's again out of the blue, isn't it? So,
I wasn't expecting this at all. Look, I like him as a player. I think he's a talented boy. Obviously, Palace won't want to lose him. Obviously, lost Wilfried Zaha to Galatasaray on a free. They're not going to want to lose Elise as well. But I think he's a good player. I think he's perfect for what we'd be looking for in terms, as you say, Premier League experience. I'm not sure what his age is. I think he must be early 20s, so he probably fits in that age profile. He's got the Premier League experience. He's done it at Crystal Palace for a number of years. He's clearly a talented boy. Do you see him? Would you see him if he was to come in? Would you see him rotating as a 10 within Kunku potentially? He'd be that number 10 rotation option, and then an excess like a fourth choice at wing if needed.
Well, yeah. Again, I don't know if he'd come in as a whether he. Would he come in and bearing in mind his trajectory, and he's pretty much playing week in, week out at Palace, like every single game, and he's an important figure as well. Would he come in and accept fourth choice.
Well, maybe maybe he'll be second. Maybe he'll be a backup number 10. Possibly. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, but then what does that mean for the likes of Chukwuemeka? Is Chukwuemeka not going to be a backup 10 anymore? I mean, how do you see that one working, mate? Oh, is he still there? No, it looks like something's happened there. We'll get back to him. We'll get back to him. Let's remove and re-add. Mate, can you hear me? No, we'll get back to him. We'll get back to him. But yeah, I mean, look, I think this is exciting, people. I really do think this is quite an exciting coup for us. Potentially, if it does happen, a talented boy. You know, he suffered a hamstring injury with the France under 21 squad. But yeah, look, I think he's a really talented guy. I mean, 45 million euros potentially is quite big. He's versatile. Hello, mate, are you there? No, he's not there. He's not there. Let's remove that. I'll get him back in a sec. But yeah, it is kind of mad. I mean, people in the chat, what are your thoughts? Elise is versatile. Why not make Sterling the backup 10 and make Elise the backup right wing? Yeah, potentially. Elise is a baller. Lavia, Kudos, Vega, Elise. Just get Caicedo done. Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. Injured for 3 months. Is he injured for 3 months? I don't think he is. If someone could find that out, that would be great. Has a wonderful left foot. Noni's with the squad. He's obviously just had a bit of an extended period of time off after the pre-season, people. So yeah, it's big news. It certainly is big news on that front, guys. No two ways about it. But yeah, I'm sure. Oh, he's back now, mate. How you doing? You there?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all good, bro. Yeah, mate. I was just kind of saying that, you know, obviously it would be great and it's exciting, but what do you think that would mean potentially if he comes in? Because we've seen Chukwuemeka start in the 10 for the last couple of games. It would probably mean that like a few of these midfielders are going to have to go out on loan, because if we do bring this guy in, even if we brought in Kudos as well, you kind of then, having got the squad down to a decent-ish size, you're then sort of repopulating it again. I mean, what do you think this signing would mean for maybe the likes of Chukwuemeka and maybe a Caicedo as well? You think maybe they could be going out on loan as well, potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I even before the potential Elise news, I thought those two would go out on loan anyway. So maybe there's one more name which we're not sort of aware of, which could go on loan. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think Mudryk would ever go on loan, because the fee we signed him for, plus Poch is, you know, clearly got a development plan for him. Raheem Sterling's probably not going to get. Well, maybe you don't know. A crazy offer comes in for him. Who knows? Question mark on that one. And then are they going to loan out Madueke somewhere? That's what I mean. I don't know.
I mean, I think Angelo will go on loan, but yeah, you suddenly then got a lot of options again, which we sort of don't really need.
And then again, potentially Kudos as well. Kudos, where his name is, at Ajax as well. I mean, Ornstein. I mean, although Ornstein said we hadn't obviously agreed any sort of fee with Ajax, he did put in the article we were close to agreeing personal terms with him. So that means Chelsea must be very serious about him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how these all fit in. I mean, out of the two, mate, if you had a choice between Kudos and Elise, who do you think would be better for Chelsea? Who would you rather us sign from a personal point of view?
Oh,
it's tough, isn't it?
It's tough. I mean, I haven't seen too much of him apart from a couple of Champions League games, and I know he was very much the sort of heir to Anthony's throne when he left the Man United, and he's obviously taken to that very, very well. He looks a very exciting player as well, and he a very good finish about him. Obviously, quite tacky sort of player as well. Kudos is as well, so I think he'd do very well for us. But I mean, what would swing it would be probably the Premier League experience. You know, there is definitely something about Elise which could be special. But again, I suppose that's the thing with Chelsea at the moment, is a lot of the players we go for haven't hit their ceiling yet, and they might not, but a lot of them have potential. So I think Elise definitely has a very good level of potential, like to go even higher. Maybe I think, you know, he's definitely could be better than Wilfred Zaha, for instance. So yeah, be interested. I mean, I know again PSG obviously saw something in him as well. They were very heavily linked with him. There was a couple of decent reports saying they wanted him to replace Messi when he left. So you know, definitely something about him.
I mean, do you think there's a possibility as well in this signing that maybe the homegrown quota as well? I don't know how many homegrown players we've lost from the quota this summer, but that could be factoring in potentially. He
It
is
does
a
count, yeah.
he does count. Um, I mean, how would this sound to you potentially? Like, if he does come in, do you think a season on loan at Crystal Palace would be good for Chukwuemeka? Just as I'm just purely hypothesizing here, but do you think Chukwuemeka on loan to Palace for the season would be a good move for him?
Yes, I would. But it doesn't have to be Crystal Palace as such, but I think from what I touched on earlier, that unfortunately with Carney, as I said, his development was completely sort of shunted last year through bad decision making at the club. And then, and again, if Pochettino is going to use him sparingly for the upcoming season, then I think he needs to go on loan, or he would maybe push for it. I know he actually did an interview 2 days ago after the Wrexham game, and he did say, I want to stay and fight for my place at Chelsea. Then at the end of it, he sort of left it open, the door, potentially open. So yeah, I think, again, depending on how Potts wants to use him, if he's not really going to use him, then I think he should go on loan, because, as you said, it's a win-win for Chelsea. He either goes and develops further, and then he either comes back a Chelsea player, or we make a profit on him. So,
Yeah.
I think on that basis, a loan would be better.
I mean, there's more. Fabrizio's added a bit more to this Elise thing. Chelsea and Manchester City both have Michael Elise in their list. Understand there's a release clause in his contract around £35 million. Both clubs are waiting for clarity about his condition as he picked up injury last month with obviously the France on the 21s. Mate, if we're competing with City, they're obviously looking for Riyad Mahrez replacement.
Mahrez, yeah.
Do you think we're in trouble there? If it comes down to head to head?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing which could sway that is that if he wants to stay in London, that is obviously a big factor. But then again, money talks, as we know. But yeah, I mean, and again, it was sort of bucked the trend really, because you probably noticed through Chelsea's transfer dealings this window is that when another club comes in, we tend to take like a back step. We clearly don't want to get in any bidding wars or any sort of wage demand wars with any players. We kind of want things to go in a one horse race, which is admirable. But then again, you will obviously lose out on talent. Because sometimes you will have to compete with other clubs. But I think when you go against PSG and Man City, that seems to me that Chelsea's new strategy is just to walk away. Same with Ugarte. As soon as PSG came in, it was almost game over, really.
Yeah,
and Chelsea didn't try either.
No, we didn't. I mean, look, I guess, as you say, a couple of key points there. Maybe he wants to stay in London. What would be best for his career as well? How much would he play at Manchester City compared to how much he play at Chelsea? Yes, obviously, you've got as good a guaranteed trophies as you can get. You've got European football. There'll be plenty of rotation in the City squad. I think he obviously fit in well there. I mean, it's hard to tell because it sounds mad, but I mean, where do you think he would get more minutes out of the two clubs? Because I don't think it's quite as clear cut as people might think. Do you think he gets more minutes at City because obviously they've got more competitions, or do you think he could get more minutes at Chelsea? I mean, normally you just say, oh, he'd definitely get more minutes at Chelsea, but I don't think it's as clear cut as that.
No, I agree, because as I said, they're imminently about to let Riyad Mahrez go to Saudi club. And then there's always that question mark over Bernardo Silva as well. Maybe they do sanction the move he's been wanting for a long time now. So, but even if Bernardo Silva stayed, because apparently Bernardo Silva might sort of move more in central positions now, then they've got Jack Grealish and I'm probably missing Foden as well. But Foden's always in and out the side as well. So again, I don't think he'd necessarily get more game time at Chelsea, because I actually think if he probably went to Man City, he probably would, as long as his obviously performance is good and trains well. That's how Pep normally if you don't train well under Pep, he doesn't play you, like Calvin Phillips, for instance. So if he went there and showed the levels in training, then like you said, I don't think it's a clear cut. I think he'd get good minutes at City.
Well, mate, this is certainly exciting and definitely one to look out for. I mean, if we added Elise and Kudos, that would be fantastic business. But it just makes you wonder, like, well, if we can sort of move quickly on these things, why is Caicedo taking so long? But yeah, let's wait and see what happens on these ones, guys. But it's certainly exciting times with Chelsea linked with Michael Elise from Crystal Palace going head to head with Manchester City. It might look like at this point in time. But yeah, guys, keep an eye out. Could be a big week ahead on those two players. Mate, I know we've got about 10 minutes to be round this one out. I just wanted to get your thoughts on another young player that we're linked with. And we've been linked with him for a number of weeks, but now the links have kind of returned again quite strongly. And that is for, if I can find it now, this one here. I think it's Elye Wahi. Understand Chelsea are now advancing in talks to sign Elye Wahi. Agreement getting closer. New negotiations round scheduled with Montpellier. The plan includes a loan move for Wahi this season, then future at Chelsea. Obviously, want to accelerate next week as there's competition now. Reportedly, that is a loan move to Strasbourg, which, if reports are to be believed, he's not that keen on. And I saw a stat on Twitter that Wahi had scored the most goals as a player under 20 in Europe's top 5 leagues. I think it was 19 goals, which is pretty good going. Mate, what do you think of this potential signing? Again, another one where he's not going to go straight into the first team. But, I mean, does this excite you? Do you know much about this kid?
Yeah, so I don't, obviously, in terms of watching, I don't obviously watch Montpellier or whatever, but when we were first linked with him, I sort of did a little bit of research on him. I think from what I'm speaking to other accounts and stuff, they say he's quite in the same mould as Elye Wahi, in terms of like a player mould. Very similar, very quick, two-footed as well, and obviously a very good finisher as well. I don't know if you probably saw it. He did get involved in an incident a few years ago, which was a little bit unsafe.
His Wikipedia page is mad.
Yeah, so again, probably unverified. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm sure there'd be something which can confirm it. But
yeah,
obviously, if that's true, you'd hope the club would have done their due diligence and stuff like that. Because again, you obviously want to sign the players who fit the right profile off the pitch as well. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting because again, I think in the initial reports came out he wasn't too keen on Strasbourg, but then I think Fabrizio tweeted this morning that it was advancing. So I guess that he's more open to going on Strasbourg on loan, and then with a view to come. And Fabrizio did say as well with a view to coming to Chelsea in the future. So Chelsea clearly do see him as someone who could be in their starting 11 or squad. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Again, it's like you said, you hope that with the model we're going for, even if they're not quite Chelsea standard by the end of their loan, or they haven't hit the heights of where they could come into our Chelsea team, then there are plenty of clubs out there who would hopefully pay a decent premium, and we turn a little bit of profit on each one of them, and we go again.
Yeah,
so it's a win-win on that basis, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win on that basis as well, guys. By the way, 150 of us locked in on my channel, over 550 of us locked in across both channels. People, make sure you keep running the likes up. Nowhere near enough likes for the amount of people tuned in, so please do hit the likes on my channel, guys. We're on 72. Let's try and hit 100 likes in the last 8 minutes before we round out, guys. Let's try and get this to 100, and make sure you subscribe to both channels as well, guys. 4K subscribers. When we hit that, there's going to be a prize draw to win a Chelsea shirt of your choice for next season. So if you're watching on my channel, you're not subscribed, hit the link and click that subscribe button. It massively helps out. We're about 140 odd from 4K, sorry. So let's try and get closer if we can. I mean, mate, just very briefly, what do you think of this model we're going down at the moment? Now that we've kind of got a little bit further into it, we've acquired Strasbourg, we've signed a lot of the younger players. It's something different. Do you like this approach that we're taking?
I would like it more, and I don't think we get the answers to whether I like it this summer or not. I think next season, because again, the where it's kind of jumbled up in January and this summer is that we've been building a base of the team, whereas next summer, I know, I probably said it last summer as well. And I know you probably did, a lot of other people. That next summer would be less chaotic. It would be blah blah blah. We'd only sign 2 or 3 players. And I guess we kind of are for our first team, but obviously we're signing a lot of players outside of our first team for Strasbourg and stuff like that. I'm hoping we get to a stage where, next summer we literally only do, in terms of our base squad, we only need to actually add 2 or 3 players. And you would hope that the model going forward would be we can still buy the young players for our, Strasbourg and stuff like that. But I do want us to be open to sign experienced players and, players in the brackets of 25 to 30 years old as well. I don't think the model will continuously work if you just target players who are 2021, because not every single one of those will come off. We've seen it time and time before. I mean, how many Josh McEachrins and Gael Kakutas and so forth have there been? There's been many of them. So not every one of those will come off. There will be a time, and I'm hoping we're on the path to doing that. There will be a time where we can sign a Declan Rice. We can sign, someone of a ready-made stature for the Premier League. I don't think we're quite there yet because of all the stuff we're doing now, but maybe next year. Same with Kepa Arrizabalaga. I want a new number one. I'm hoping that we can do the sort of important stuff. We can get a new number one. Obviously, I'd like it this summer, but it's just not looking like it at the moment.
No, it isn't. But no, I agree with what you say. I mean, look, I think we want to get ourselves in a position, as you say, where we only need to add 2 or 3 players to the base squad kind of each summer. And maybe 2 or 3 of those players can come from this model, from these younger players we've signed, they've developed on loan. And then maybe they can fill the places in the squad that we've been missing potentially. I think that is that could be a potential plus of the model. But again, you just have to wait and see. You just never know at this point in time, kind of what the situation is going to be with the model. But I like the way it's going. But as you say, it's too early to tell this summer. I think we're only really going to find out in maybe the next 1 to 2 years as to how good this model is potentially going to be. But look, Wahi could be another exciting signing. And there's obviously a reason we're after him. The data is obviously telling us something, the eye test and whatnot as well. So yeah, let's see what happens to him. Let's see how he does. Let's see where he ends up going on loan. But yeah, definitely an exciting one to look out for in the future. The last thing I just wanted to cover briefly, mate, before I let you go, is Callum Hudson-Odoi. This almost feels a little bit full circle, kind of going back to Lazio or close to going back to Lazio. To link up with Maurizio Sarri again, who kind of gave him his breakthrough and his chance at Chelsea. It's mad to think that he's still only 22. The Achilles injury, like with Ruben, kind of set him back. He's not really quite been the same. Mate, do you think this is a good move? And how do you feel about it not really working out for Callum at Chelsea? Because I feel it's a bit of a shame because you hear a lot of guys speak, Reece James' dad, and saying, never seen anyone like Callum come through the academy in terms of how good he was in the academy. Do you feel it's a shame it's not worked out for him at Chelsea? And do you think Lazio and Sarri could get him back to playing his best football again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely is a shame. Again, I know from being quite active on Twitter, there's a vocal minority who will obviously go too far and they will say some unsavory things. But I think if you take a step back, from the trajectory he was on. You look at his career for England youth teams, and he was miles ahead of like Foden and all those other sort of players. Yeah. So I think on that basis, from going from the brightest under-20 star we had with electric pace, and his finishing at that age group was phenomenal as well. And then what he's done, then when he initially burst on the scene under Sarri, I mean, I couldn't see anything but him being a superstar. I think one of the things which unfortunately went against him and maybe went against Chelsea as well was, I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, so I can't criticise it too much, but at the age we paid him 120k a week, that was just completely wrong. We shouldn't have done that. And I don't know the ins and outs of it behind the scenes. Money could have gone to his head. Who knows? It's probably more likely the injury. But then again, I don't. And a player that amount of money from that age, I just think it was a mistake from the outset anyway. And then you said the injury as well. Yeah, just completely killed the momentum and never came back the same player. And then, I think we all had a bit of hope last year that, especially Leverkusen, whereas the Santos of the world do really, really well there. It could have reignited his career, but it didn't go to plan at all last season. Did he score or assist anything? I don't think he did.
He didn't do an awful lot. I think he got I think he scored against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, and he maybe chipped in with a few assists. But yeah, it certainly didn't go as well as I think Chelsea or he was expecting. So I don't know. You see a lot of young Englishmen going to Serie A now with the likes of Tomori. Obviously, Ruben's gone over there. Tammy's over there. Chris Smalling's gone over there. And he'd be another one. I mean, look, do you think it'll work well for him out there? I mean, Sarri is obviously someone that clearly likes him, got him arguably playing the best football of his career. So maybe that could be a good link up. Do you think he can rediscover his form? Because it would be a shame because there's still so much potential there, and I still think he's got so much to offer.
Yeah, as you said, I think what's on his side is the age thing, and again. And I think we also forget the mental aspect of it as well. Maybe there is especially when young players get big injuries, a lot of them don't come back the same player, and a lot of that is due to the mental side of it as well. So maybe there is like a mental block there that he needs to get over. or work to getting the shackles off. And yeah, going over to Italy, playing under Maurizio Sarri, who, you speak to Eden Hazard or you listen to Eden Hazard, he said that Sarri gave him absolute freedom. He actually enjoyed it a lot under Sarri, whereas you speak to all the other players, they, some of them didn't like it, but Eden Hazard did. So maybe, especially a winger specialist who Sarri seems to be. So I think under Napoli, what's that winger's name? Who was?
Oh, what, Lozano?
Yeah, there was also Callion as well. Did he do really well in Napoli under Sarri? There's a few wingers there which did really well under him. So yeah. I mean, I'll be cheering for him, hoping he does well. Certainly wouldn't leave any ill will. It's one of those things. Just hasn't worked, and I think a fresh start for us and him is definitely the best course of action.
No, absolutely, mate. And just to round out, bro, what would you like to see this week from Chelsea? Obviously, we play Newcastle on Thursday. So yeah, that's kind of we've got a game to look ahead to. We've got a few days training now to get under our belt, work on a few things, etc. In terms of transfer wise, what do you think would constitute a good week for Chelsea this sort of upcoming week? Because we are, as you said, we're racing towards August, and we have only got one senior incoming for the first team in Nicholas Jackson. I mean, do you think we have to sign a player this week for the first team, whether that's Caicedo, whether it's Elye, Kudos, whoever it is? Do you think we need to get another one through the door this week?
Again, it's probably unlikely it will come through the door because, again,
close to being agreed.
Yeah, it would be nice to get something agreed this week, and then because then even if that new signing didn't play against Newcastle, at least everyone's got the lift of, okay, well, he's going to come in for the next game. But yeah, I think, as I said before, there's going to have to come to a decision on Caicedo soon. Chelsea are either going to have to as you stump up the money, or they're going to have to just say we're going to leave negotiations. Wouldn't surprise me.
We can't walk away. We can't walk away having gone this far. We have to get him, because what are the alternatives then? If we walk away, we're fucked.
Well, do you know what? It's very interesting that Romeo Lavia hasn't gone anywhere yet. And what are we, end of July now? Southampton have been relegated, and Lavia is still at Southampton. So
no bids either.
Exactly. A lot. I mean, Arsenal, Liverpool, and I think Liverpool are working on it quite heavily. But maybe, do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me, because Fabinho and Henderson's gone, and Fabinho's going to go as well. Yeah. Maybe as soon as those do, Lavia's off the table. So, and again, unfortunately, if we say he did want Lavia, because we've done the Caicedo thing for so long, we might miss out on Lavia. He might go to Liverpool because we're waiting too long. So again, if it's stopping us getting this other midfielder on the list, then that's why you're going to have to draw a line in it, because you can imagine if it goes to the deadline day, it would not shock me. We're dealing with Brighton here. They could dig in their heels, and all summer, 31st of August, Chelsea paid 100. I mean, Benfica did it with us for Enzo. So Brighton, and he signed a new deal in March. So
yeah, I mean, the ball's not exactly in our court. We basically, we're going to have to stump up the money, or we're not getting him. I think that's what it looks like at this point in time. I just can't see any other resolution to the situation. But look, I think it's going to be an exciting week ahead. Certainly, I think there's lots of links coming now in terms of Elye, Kudos. Maybe we get some news on Caicedo, but there's potential, hopefully, to at least get some sort of agreement on at least one player next week. I think we have to do that as a bare minimum. But the links are starting to come now, so let's kind of see how this week plays out. I mean, I think it seems like a good point to round this one out. Thank you so much for your time, as always. It's massively appreciated. If people don't know what you do, or don't know where to find you on Twitter or under a rock, because you're always on there providing great news updates, mate, where should people check you out?
Yeah, literally, I'm not so I don't have like a YouTube channel. I literally just do Twitter. I've got a career elsewhere outside of what I do on Twitter. I literally just do like aggregation of news and do Twitter spaces and speak to people. Just, I love the club, mate. A lot of where I used to live in London, but I live in Bournemouth now. Oh, and fair. I literally all my mates are Man United and Arsenal fans and Liverpool fans. So yeah. I literally went on Twitter last year just to speak to some Chelsea fans, and then it sort of went, one thing led to another, and Chelsea Dodgers was born, and that was it. I don't know about aspirations of doing more of it in the future. It's just seems to be growing nicely.
Yeah, mate.
Well. At the Blue Dodger. Yeah, if you want any news or I will talk to anyone about football, mate. No problem.
Yeah, no, guys, make sure you follow him because there's loads of great stuff on there. I'll link it in the description as well, people. So yeah, make sure you check it out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Been a great show as always. Thanks for getting involved, guys. Thanks for getting involved in the chat. I tried to get through as many things as possible there. Guys, on the way out, just one last favor. Please run the likes up. We're at 84 likes on mine. Still over 100 of you locked in. Let's try and get to 100 likes on the way out. That would be massively appreciated, guys. And hit the subscribe button as well, people. I'll put the link in the chat to the channel. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Sorry, guys. The quicker we get to 4K, the quicker you've got your chance to win yourself a Chelsea shirt, guys. So please do hit that subscribe button on the way out. Please do smash the likes. Hopefully, we're in for a good week next week with Chelsea. We've got the game against Newcastle. Let's hope for progress on Caicedo. Maybe something on Elise. Maybe something on Kudos. Let's try and stay positive. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for a great show, mate. Guys, take care. I'll be back tomorrow with another transfer update. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care. Up the Chelsea and catch you guys soon.